Good morning, boys and girls. I'm back, and do you remember that we started this series called The Secret of the Hidden Scrolls? And this is book 1. And do you remember that it's about a girl named Mary and a boy named Peter, their dog Hank, great Uncle Solomon, and hidden scrolls. So previously on this, Mary and Peter are staying with their great Uncle Solomon because Mom and Dad are in Africa. Well, then great Uncle Solomon starts talking about something about these hidden scrolls. So chapter 3 is the lion's roar. Do you remember that? So let's begin. Who is the lion? Asked Mary.
Oh, you have to figure that out on your own,
said great Uncle Solomon.
But right now it's time to go to bed.
What? Go to bed? When the scroll's hidden somewhere in the house? Peter was sure he'd never fall asleep. Peter awoke at midnight to what sounded like a lion's roar in the hallway. He shook his head. He must have been dreaming. But Hank was barking in the hallway. Peter ran out to stop him before he woke everyone in the house. Mary opened her bedroom door and rubbed the sleep out of her eyes. What's going on out here? I don't know. Hank won't stop barking, said Peter. Mary looked across the hall and pointed. Peter followed her gaze. One of the doors to the library was cracked open just a little bit. Let's go in, said Peter. Oh, it's late. We should be in bed, Mary whispered. Peter walked toward the door. Are you kidding? Don't you want to see all the amazing things in the library? I don't think we're allowed to go in, said Mary. Well, great Uncle Solomon never said we couldn't go in, said Peter. He just said he didn't think we were ready. And something about a lion. I guess. Mary twisted a piece of hair around with her finger. I would like to see what's in there. Hank barked at the library doors again. Then he scratched at the cracked door, and it swung all the way open. Hank ran in before Peter could stop him. Peter took off after Hank with Mary on his heels. When he reached the middle of the library, he froze like a popsicle. You should try that. You should try freezing like a popsicle. Mary ran into him from behind. Peter rubbed his eyes. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The library was huge. Tall bookshelves went from floor to ceiling onto every wall. He had never seen so many books in his life. Look at all these books, said Mary. It's amazing. It is a lot of books, said Peter. But where are all the cool things that great Uncle Solomon discovered? He said we would see amazing things that we could only dream about. And the only things I see are books. Well, that's not a very good dream. Well, said Mary, maybe he was just trying to make it fun for us. Here's part of a picture of what the library might have looked like. Or maybe he's just not just old. Maybe he's old and crazy, Peter grinned. I don't think so, said Mary. Mom and Dad wouldn't have left us with a crazy person. Ruff, ruff, barked Hank. He ran to a tall bookshelf on the right wall. What's he barking at? Asked Peter. I don't know, Mary said. It seems like it's something on the bookshelf. Mary walked over for a closer look at the book Hank was barking at. It was a large book with a red cover. It did not have a title, but a lion's head was painted in gold on the cover. Maybe this is the lion great Uncle Solomon talked about, said Mary. Hey, Peter said. Did you hear something that sounded like a lion's roar in the hallway a few minutes ago? I did, said Mary, but I didn't say anything because I thought I was dreaming. Peter pinched his arm. Ouch! Why did you do that? Asked Mary. I wanted to make sure I wasn't dreaming, said Peter, rubbing his arm. Well, let's see what the book says. Mary reached down and pulled it from the shelf. The tall bookshelf rumbled, and then it moved. It slid open to reveal a hidden room. The room was dark, except for a glowing clay pot sitting in the center. Peter's jaw dropped. I guess Great Uncle Solomon isn't crazy after all, he said. Let's go in. Mary hung back. I don't know about this. Hank ran into the secret room straight toward the pot. Hank, stop! Stop! Hank dug his claws into the floor, but it was no use. He slid all the way across the floor, knocked the pot over. The scrolls fell out and rolled everywhere. Mary gasped. We better clean this up and get out of here before we break something. Peter picked up one of the scrolls and looked at the red wax seal. It had a picture of a tree pressed into it. Hurry! We need to put them away before Great Uncle Solomon finds us, said Mary. As Peter went to put the scroll back in the clay pot, he tripped over Hank. He almost fell face first into the pot, but Mary grabbed it out of the way. Peter landed on the floor with a thud. Are you okay? She asked. I am, but I'm not sure about the scroll. Peter held up the scroll. The red wax seal was broken. Suddenly, the walls shook. Bells and books fell off the shelves, and the floor quaked. Peter's heart pounded so hard he could almost hear it. And when he looked at Mary, her eyes were as round as soccer balls. That's pretty big. There's a picture of Hank the dog sliding into the clay pot of scrolls. Mary! Shouted Peter. He held the scroll in one hand and grabbed Mary's hand with the other. The library began to crumble around them, and then everything was dark. Completely dark. I can't stop there. Chapter 4. Let there be light. Who turned off the lights? Asked Peter. I can't see anything, said Mary. I can't feel anything either. Everything is gone, said Peter. No books, no library, no floor, no walls, no anything. They were floating in the air, and it was completely dark and still, and the air felt wet and slippery. Where's Hank? Asked Mary. Hank! Hank! Where are you? Shouted Peter. Barked Hank. He's over there, said Peter. But how do we get over there? I guess we could swim, said Mary. But we're not in water. Well, it feels a little like water. Try kicking your feet and swinging your arms like you're swimming. Peter swung his arms and kicked. He almost rammed into Mary, who was doing the same. He was glad nobody from swimming class could see him. It would have been pretty embarrassing. Peter moved closer and closer toward the sounds of Hank's barking. He finally grabbed him. Hank licked Peter all over his face. Then they all just floated in the darkness. Well, what do we do now? Asked Peter. Now? I don't know, said Mary. What does the scroll say? Well, I can't read it. It's completely dark, if you hadn't noticed. Well, I guess we just wait, said Mary. They floated quietly for what seemed like hours. Let there be light, said a big voice through the darkness. And a warm, beautiful light glowed everywhere, and the darkness was gone. Peter and Mary blinked and looked over at each other. Wow, that's bright, said Peter. I can see again, said Mary, but even with the light, the only things I can see are you, Hank, and the scroll. Oh, I almost forgot the scroll. Peter started to unroll it. It is good, said the big voice through the light. The light went away, and the darkness rolled back in. How can it be good when I can't see anything, said Peter. Now we can't read the scroll, said Mary. They continued to float through the darkness. Peter was very tired. He could barely keep his eyes open. He heard a soft snore beside him and whispered, "Mary." She didn't answer. Mary was asleep, and so was Hank. The next thing Peter knew, he was waking up to the same bright, warm light he had seen the day before. "Let there be sky to separate the water above the sky from the water below the sky," said the big voice. The sky around them became clear. Peter looked down and saw nothing but water as far as he could see. He looked up from the water and over at Mary. "Uh-oh," said Peter, and he quickly fell through the air and splashed into the water below. "Swim!" shouted Mary. "I am," said Peter, "but there's nowhere to go. There's nothing out here but water." "Just keep swimming," said Mary. "It's our only hope." "Well, it's a good thing we had swimming lessons all those summers." Peter floated on his back. "It is good," said the big voice across the water. "It's not good," said Peter. "We're going to drown." The water started getting rough. "I don't know how much longer I can stay above the water," said Mary, "and it looks like Hank is getting tired of dog paddling." Peter pointed over the waves. "What is that brown thing way over there?" I think it's a boat." Mary waved her arms in the air. A small wooden boat floated across the rolling waves. The large man wearing white reached out and pulled Hank out of the water. The waves grew rougher. He rowed toward Mary and pulled her into the boat. "Thank you," said Mary. "Who are you?" "I am Michael, and God has sent me to help," said Michael. The boat rocked back and forth in the waves. "Hello!" shouted Peter. "Can I get a little help over here?" The waves splashed in Peter's face, and he struggled to hold the scroll safely above the water. This was not the time for small talk. A crashing wave pulled Peter under the water. He kicked his feet and swam back to the surface. Michael rowed toward him, but the waves pushed Peter away from the boat. Michael held out the paddle. "Grab it!" Peter reached for the paddle, but it knocked the scroll out of his hand. The scroll rolled and bobbed away across the waves. Peter let go of the paddle and swam for the scroll, and a wave swallowed it into the deep water. Peter dove into the darkness. Michael stood, spread his wings, and splashed into the water. Peter swam deeper and deeper with Michael right behind him. Then Michael grabbed Peter by the arm, flew out of the water, and landed in the boat. "You could have drowned!" shouted Mary. She sounded mad, but Peter could tell by the look on her face that she was glad he was safe. Peter shivered and held up the scroll. "Look! It stayed dry." "That was brave," said Michael. "Not very smart, but brave." Boys and girls, this is where we're going to leave it because it's to be continued. Wonder what will happen with Michael, now a new character, Hank, the dog, Peter, and Mary, and of course the scroll. What do you think? Next week, a mighty friend. Have a great day.